Alright guys, take a look at all these demo bikes here at Harley Davidson. Tons of bikes. I'm slowly working my way through all these bikes. And today, I'm going to ride this one. Take a look at this. This is the Pan America Special. And you might be asking yourself, what's so special about the Special? The Special actually has the auto up and down, so it actually kind of sinks down so you can easily get on it. And then when you start riding it, it actually raises the whole bike up to give you kind of more of a height on the bike. I actually rode the one that's not special, and you know, I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'4", 235 pounds. And that one, if you don't have the Special, you pull up to a stop sign and your feet are like dangling. Look, my feet have some pretty good angle on my legs here, so not too bad. So it's in the low mode right now, and they say you really don't even notice when you take off that it actually just lifts the whole bike up and gives you more suspension. All right, so turn it on. Actually, oh wow, I actually felt it lower down a little bit when I turned it on. All right, that's interesting. So it was actually a little bit higher. I actually felt it. All right, so we're in neutral. Pull on the clutch and just start it right up on top. So, you know, this being a Harley Davidson, it's like a completely different beast, because you can actually tell by the mirrors that it doesn't have the Harley Davidson mirrors on it. So it's, you know, pretty much built from the ground up with, I guess you'd say, non-Harley Davidson parts. So it's not, you know, a lot of your Harley Davidsons have a lot of the same hardware, but you get on something like this. And this is kind of interesting. The digital display actually almost looks like an Indian, where it looks like a piece of paper. It's kind of an interesting, very visible, very readable display on it. All right, so first thing I want to do is find the foot peg. It's way back here. You have a very upright stance. Look at where my knees come on this. Very nice. It's a completely different stance. All right. Got a little bit of a clunk. Put it into gear. I always like to see where the friction zone is. A little bit further than your typical Harley Davidson. Maybe an inch and a half out instead of an inch or so. All right, so let's take this thing out here. Make sure no wind's coming. All right, your feet are definitely further back on this one. Back brakes are nice. The seat's really thin on this. Pretty amazing. You kind of have to fish for the friction zone, but the friction zone is like a pretty big friction zone. Kind of really forgiving, like you wouldn't stall the bike like on a lot of your Harleys, which I really like. And this bike actually has several different modes. So right now we are in rain mode, and it has highway mode and sport mode. And on a lot of your bikes like this one, if you don't know about the modes, you'd be like, where's all the power? And then you switch it into like sport mode. It's like super crazy fast. It's like a completely different bike when you shift a lot of these different modes once you figure out how to get into sport mode. So we're in rain mode right now, and even rain mode is pretty amazing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in highway mode. You can just switch it right on the fly. Slow speed stability is really good. Come up to the stop sign. Whoa. Wow, that's pretty incredible. And that's not even in sport mode yet. That almost takes your breath away, it's so fast. I don't want to go too fast here because speed limit is 35. That's the problem with a lot of these bikes that have a lot of power. It's like they just like are begging you to go faster. And you can get into a lot of trouble with some of these bikes. I feel like I can almost pick up the front end in highway mode, which is pretty amazing. Really super solid around the corners, really solid. which is actually pretty surprising. Wow. Alright, so I'm going to switch it into sport mode on the fly, and it's just a little mode button right above the start button, and you can just hit it with your index finger. Alright, so we'll try it at the next stop sign. The next stop sign we'll actually see how fast it can take off. Hopefully I don't do a wheelie on this thing. I don't know if there's wheelie control on this. On a lot of your really fast bikes, a lot of times you'll have wheelie control, and if you start doing a wheelie, it'll actually kind of dampen the engine so you don't I was wondering on this one if I almost feel a little bit of heat on my left foot, just a little bit. You have to kind of watch some of these bikes. I know like some of the Triumphs, like the Triumph Tiger, I think when I took those out, they had a lot of heat coming off the engine. It was like super hot, so it'll be interesting to see how hot this one gets, because this is kind of a similar configuration to those. Kind of like an on-road, off-road kind of a bike. As far as the wind deflection, it's great. Keeps a lot of the wind off, no buffeting at all. Super nice, just one straight little thing. And the other good thing is I'm getting wind coming in up my sleeves, which on a hot day like this, when I'm really sweating, it's really refreshing to get that cold air in and kind of cool off from the wind coming up my sleeves. Of course, if it was really cold, you might not want the wind coming up your sleeves like that. But the other thing that's nice on this is the hand guards. So if you have like if you ever been hit on the hand by like a big June bug or a rock or something like that, this definitely solves that problem. Especially if you're going off-road, maybe following someone else on a bike and they were kicking up stones, that would be good to have those hand guards. I think, yeah, this is this is a lot faster. I was in, it seemed like the it looks like it goes up to like 9,000 RPM before it redlines. So I think a lot of the power on this bike is at your higher RPM. Although you do have quite a bit of power at lower RPM. It's just not. I'd say it's more power at lower RPM than you'd see like on a sport bike. A lot of your sport bikes, you really don't feel the power until you get like way up there, like 6,000, 7,000 RPM. Wow! 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 That's amazing. That's really amazing. The other thing that almost takes your breath away. It's so fast. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the gears are really short. So you have to switch gears a whole bunch versus it was the KTM Super Duke. That seemed like it had really long gears, like you could go really fast in like first gear or second gear. Where in this one it just seems like you run out of RPM, run out of gear, and you have to shift and shift and shift. It's like a different kind of a. It's really rock solid around the corner. Super solid on the road. I'd say one of the more solid Harley Davidsons actually. The other thing on this one, it almost seems like it has maybe a little bit less vibration through the handlebars than the non-specials. I don't know if they actually upgraded the suspension on the special, but it seems like. I haven't actually rode the non-special version of this one. Alright, someone pass this guy. Wow. Super fast. So if you notice when I took off there, I was in kind of a lower RPM, like 3,000. It seemed like the power didn't really kick in until I got to maybe 4,000. So you kind of have to wind it out a little bit to hit that power band. But yeah, it's super fun. This is probably one of the funnest bikes This is kind of like, I'd say this bike is probably one of the funnest Harley Davidsons, up there with the Sportster S. That bike was super fun. That's kind of like the road version of a super fun bike. This is like the off-road version of a super fun bike for Harley Davidson. And they're both, you know, your non-standard Harley Davidsons. They use pretty much all you know, non-standard equipment from the ground up. It's like a completely different bike compared to all your other Harley Davidsons. You know, the mirrors and everything are completely different. But man, yeah, I drove one of these last year. I think I drove the Special last year. I don't remember having this much power. I don't know if they've increased the power since last year. This one just seems like it has a lot more get up and go. It's pretty amazing. And it seems like a lot more stable and planted than I remember. Alright, so then the blinkers, you actually have kind of like your Honda style blinkers. Just like one button for both blinkers. This one, I'm sure it's going to be easy to turn around on this one. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see. Not too bad, not too bad. It seems really light, super light. It's a super light bike. It's pretty amazing. Whoa! I thought I was gonna pick up the front end. I think I did pick up the front end that time. Wow. All right, no wheelies. All right, so now we're going into the wind. So on the last bike I rode, I was getting a lot of buffeting riding this road into the wind. This one, I'm feeling choppy wind. It's pretty windy. Lifted up my whole jacket. But there's not really any buffeting. You know, the buffeting that kind of throws your helmet around, where it kind of blurs your vision. If you've never experienced buffeting, it's awful. I've been on a couple bikes where I had really bad buffeting. I think one of the worst was the Honda Goldwing. I just could not get the visor up high enough to get rid of the buffeting on that. But this one, I'd say, pretty much no buffeting. Getting a lot of choppy wind sound. It's loud wind. A lot louder, I'd say, than some of your bikes. To the point where you'd almost need earplugs. This one. I actually ride with Bluetooth earbuds going through my phone, so I block out all the wind noise and the road noise. I just play my music, so one hand wave, pretty good, pretty good. Not too bad. So as far as the vibration coming up through, you can, I'd say, you can feel the engine noise, the engine vibration coming up through the handlebars. You can feel the road. The front suspension's pretty stiff, I'd say. And I don't know if the suspension might change based on the mode. Let me go into rain mode. Wow, it's a huge difference as far as power. It like takes all the power away. It's a huge difference in rain mode. But it doesn't really seem like it changed the suspension. So it's still pretty stiff up front. Wow, I'd say that's probably, rain mode's probably 25% of the power, which is pretty amazing. It really cuts a lot of the power out in rain mode, which is interesting. Back brakes, I think I can lock up the back wheel with the back brakes. You kind of have to get on them a little bit, but they are pretty good. Whoa, I'm in sport mode. You can almost pick up the front end in sport mode, huh? I think you could. The problem is if you get too much power on some of these bikes, it gets a little bit scary, and you really can't use all the power because you're afraid of picking up the front end unless it has some kind of wheelie control. So I know, like on the like the KTM Super Duke is like probably one of the craziest bikes, and that thing has wheelie control on it. But if you take off the wheelie control, it's hard to use because you really don't know how far to push it before the front end starts lifting up, and you're always kind of, you can't use all the throttle on the bike just because it has so much power. It's a fun bike though, but it's a completely different machine than this one. This is more of like an enduro, kind of an on-off-road kind of a bike. The other thing I noticed is when I pull up to like a stop sign, that I'm not having any problems with the ground being too far away, like on the non-special version. It felt like my legs were kind of dangling. On that one, that's, I would say, unless you're shorter than, unless you're taller than 6 feet, you probably want the special version of the Pan America, because you want the auto lowering. This bike just seems so fun on the road. Really fun. So we're going 70. Still got a lot of choppy wind. A lot of loud choppy wind at 70. But it still seems pretty stable. Not as stable as some. If you compare it to like the really super stable bikes, like the Road King Special, or the you know, some of the baggers, it's definitely rougher. It's definitely rougher. It is what it is. It's more of an enduro. You definitely feel more wind, more noise, more road vibration. But it's still pretty stable. Even going like 70, you can probably do pretty good on the highway with this, I would say. You just probably want some earbuds or something to block out the wind. It's pretty loud. It's interesting. It seems like every bike has advantages and disadvantages. This one I kind of like it because you can tuck your legs up underneath. I like the pegs because you can kind of stretch out your ankles a little bit, so you're not stuck with the floorboard in the same position. All right, so we got to turn here. We have these crazy like Honda blinkers. Just one button on the blinker. All right, let's see. Turn here in second gear. So let's see. There is a gear indicator at the bottom. Usually what I do is I just kind of shift down to first, and then I know where I'm at, and then I come back to second. So yeah, like I'm in third already, going 20. So they're really short gears, kind of like a sport bike, I guess you'd say, which is interesting. I like how they slightly colored the, I think this is like a brake fluid reservoir up on top. I've seen these where they're clear. It just kind of looks weird. There's a clear reservoir. But yeah, you can get in a lot of trouble with this bike. The problem is you get a bike like this and you're always wanting to do wheelies or something like that. So, yeah. I always get in trouble trying to do wheelies all the time. And it just seems like I'm, you know, getting into trouble going too far, and then you end up tipping it over and wrecking it. So I've had some dirt bikes that, yeah, it kind of begs you to do wheelies on some of those. Alright, so I want to go back into rain mode. Rain mode is just one click after sport mode. Yeah, first gear, I don't know how fast you can go in first gear. 15's kind of wound out even in first gear unless you're really getting on it. So, alright, so he told me to put it all the way down at the end. Let's see if we can get these guys out of the way. So we'll go right here. Pretty easy. Slow speed is really easy on this bike. Probably one of the, it's actually quite surprising that you go so slow and it's so easy. It's not really unstable at really slow speeds. All right, so the big question is, how easy is it to get into neutral? Oh, that's the second attempt. Oh, I got it. 3 tries. Some bikes, it takes me 5 times to get into neutral. Sometimes it's like just silky smooth right into neutral, which is interesting. I've never really noticed it until this year that there's so many differences. All right, so I'm gonna kill it. Apparently on this bike, you need to lift the kickstand before you start it, because if you have the kickstand down, you actually can't start the engine, which is interesting. All right, so there you have it. That is the 2022 Harley Davidson Pan America Special with the 1250 Revolution engine. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.